Everything rises and falls on leadership. The ability to lead well is fueled by living your cause and purpose. This podcast will equip you with the tools to do just that. Live and lead with cause and purpose. And now, author of the book, The Anatomy of Leadership, and our host, Chris Comeaux.
Hello and welcome. I'm excited. Our guest today is Richard Mobley. He's the founder and principal of the 7-4 Group and the Be Far More system. Hey, Richard, so good to have you.
Chris, what a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about getting to know you and your audience, and honestly, the work that y'all do that I'm not able to do. So appreciate being here. Thanks.
Well, I'm excited to introduce you to our listeners. So let me do that. Let them know a little bit more about you. So Richard Mobley is a seasoned corporate executive turned leadership transformation expert who believes great leadership can change everything. After experiencing both exceptional and poor leadership throughout his corporate career, he made it his mission to help others understand and implement the principles of effective leadership. Richard transforms leaders who want to maximize their impact and unlock their team's fullest potential, drawing from his executive experience and a keen observation of both effective and ineffective leadership. Richard helps clients navigate the challenges of modern leadership with clarity and purpose. He's a certified John Maxwell Leadership Team coach, speaker, trainer. Richard guides emerging and established leaders through a unique 3-filter approach that integrates practical knowledge, real-world experience, and biblical wisdom. At the heart of his coaching philosophy is servant leadership, inspired by Philippians 2:3-4, which encourages putting others' interest ahead of one's own. So, Richard, what did I leave out that you would want our audience to know about you?
I'm trying to think, Chris, of some things that would make my mama proud. So Jackie and I live in Birmingham, Alabama. A gig brought us here in 2001. She's a Texan. She says we're going home to Texas one of these days, but not yet. We're still really involved here in our local community, and likewise, no grandchildren. So just Jackie and me doing the things that bring us joy and serve others. I guess the one fact that I'd like you to know is I am not really bald. I am just taller than my hair. So, as you well know.
Well, and I did not know you didn't have grandkids until we were in the green room. Because this has got nothing to do with your age. You just have a grandfatherly wisdom. I have never told you this. And so I met Richard at probably the most transformative conference I've ever been through in my life. Is the Elite Leadership Summit. Mike Harbour and I did a podcast about it last year. And I was just drawn to you. I mean, you just have this grandfatherly wise presence. And I've always been attracted to people like that. Dr. Lee Thayer was my mentor. He was Stephen Covey's mentor. And I found myself kind of sitting next to you, and we just started talking. And I've told you before, I want to call you Papa John because you have a little bit of that John Maxwell fatherly presence about you. So I hope you take all that as the compliments it's very much intended.
These are build-up thoughts, and I'm going to take them. And by the way, all of that, Chris, would make my mama proud. So thank you.
So, well, I prepared you for this question, and I know you wrestle with it. What's your superpower?
I did wrestle with this question. And I've tried to distill it down, and I think the superpower turns out to be being a thinking partner with somebody who's facing a challenge. So I could pick that apart in so many ways. I am the big brother. I'm the oldest of 4. There are only 2 of us left. And I was the big brother. We joked about this a minute ago. I happen to be a physically large man. I'm a very, very tall man. And so people look up to me. And you've heard me. I've given the joke before. God gave people at least one reason to look up to me. But being very serious, that filters through my outlook on life. And so looking out for and attempting to take care of others, like the world is not my problem, but I feel compelled to try to work on some of those things. So a lot of that has to do with living up to my name. My name. Long time ago, we did a study about what people's names mean. You know, words do mean things. And the name Richard can be translated to mean keeper of others' welfare. And when I learned that. This is a long time, 50 years ago. Something clicked inside, and I began working, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, trying to live up to that name. So being a thinking partner with somebody who's facing a problem and having the wisdom to say, I don't know. Perhaps we can go find an answer somewhere else.
That all that resonates. Again, a honor of getting to meet you last year, and then you and I struck up a relationship. You've now done some work with our TCN network, bringing the wonderful Live to Lead. So our listeners, if you don't know what Live to Lead is, Google it. It's an amazing John Maxwell conference. And so Richard and I worked together. We've brought that to our network, and we had we broke it into 3 parts. December, we're going to do another in January, and then February. It's just, you've already blessed me just from knowing you, and now we've paid that forward to many other people, and now or via this podcast. So let's jump in. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
There's so many different areas I want to go into, but I want to start with this one. Many leaders spend decades preparing for success, but very little time preparing for what comes next, what comes after. What do you wish more CEOs understood about the transition from achievement to meaning? And I want to provide a little bit more context. A lot of our listeners are hospice and palliative care leaders, Richard.
Yep.
Apparently, I am the second generation. The first generation were the people that created hospice in our country. We are in the tail end of a lot of that first generation retiring. Okay. I'm part of the second generation. I was 25 when I came into hospice. Some of my older peers, second generation, they're getting ready to retire. So there's just a lot of volume of talent that is walking out of the door or getting ready to walk out of the door. And that's why I really want to start with this question.
If I was going to try to simplify that question for myself, I would ask it this way. So you've had this great career. So what? Now what? I am one who did not approach that question very well. In fact, I wasn't smart enough to ask that question for myself a long time ago when I retired pretty early. But as I think about how your audience and others can approach this in a better way, I'm thinking about the 3 stages of life that John Maxwell talks about. Number 1 is survival. And much of the world is in survival mode, meaning they're on the hunt for food and shelter and clothing. You and I are in success mode. And in fact, I would postulate that all of our listeners are in success mode. And that has nothing to do with the number of letters behind your name or how many zeros and commas are in your annual paycheck. It has to do with, we did have food and shelter. We can go to the pantry right now. We probably got an automobile. We have freedom. We are in success mode. But John talks about moving from success to significance. And what is that? That's making a difference in somebody else's life. It's not really a destination thing. A lot of us have looked at success mode as if it were a destination. When I get this, when I do that, whatever the criteria we put on it. But significance isn't like that. It's a daily thing. It's an inside out thing. It's not about someday. It's about today. And so I would encourage your listeners to be thinking about, oh yeah, what's next? So what? Now what? For me, it was not the golf course, the hunting, the fishing, the travel, it was something different for me. And so I would encourage them to be thinking about how to continue to make a difference. Mm-hmm. The thing that they're doing today, palliative and hospice care, makes a difference. I would question, like, how do you really walk away from that? Yeah. I understand life change. I like change. The pace might slow, but then how would you go make a difference somewhere else and continue to contribute to all those great things? Move from success to significance. That's the short answer.
Wow. It's interesting. I had Quint Studer, who's one of my key mentors in my life, on my podcast. And Quint said something fascinating. He now owns half of downtown Pensacola, AAA baseball team. He said, like, Quint, you've led all these different businesses. Which one's kind of the easiest or your favorite? And he didn't miss a beat. He said healthcare. And he saw the look on my face. I'm like, oh, you know what? He goes, no, Chris. He goes, there's no purposeful business like health. I've got all these other businesses, the connection to purpose. So I wonder, so here's what maybe my follow-up question. listen to what you said. I love that actually. So survival, success, and then significance. Because hospice is so meaningful, such sacred ground, I wonder if it's harder then for them to find significance because it feels like the success and significance were merged together.
Yeah.
Because I've got a couple of horrible case studies. One CEO we worked with, and she was working so dang hard. She had almost pretty much was the founder of that hospice, only CEO for 30 something years. And her goal was this cabin in a beautiful place in the United States. And then she kind of got to that thing and like, oh crap. It's like, wait a minute, I was just trying to get to that vacation, so to speak. And I really saw like her health. You could see it was that lack of significance and just really wrestling. I think now she's kind of found some of that, grandkids and some things along those lines. But I don't know if you could kind of take all that and kind of merge it into an answer. But I do think there's something about this healthcare work that we may be confluencing that success and that significance.
Chris, may I bore you with a personal story?
Please.
That's pretty much my story. Not on the clinical side of things, but the organizations I worked with were in healthcare. We did administration. So we did software and systems and services. We served physicians and hospitals. At one time, I had 80,000 physician clients. So I always told my people, and my people were project managers and coders and sales people and customer service folks. That was my team. But I told them all the time, we are in healthcare. We are helping healthcare. And the reason I said that is I knew that when we did our job well, that physician and hospital could do their job better. Mm. A way I illustrated it was saying, hey, if my little Mary Elizabeth gets sick, I'm taking her to one of my clients as a physician because I know that lady or that man is not worried about payroll this Friday. They're going to be able to take care of Mary Elizabeth. I had a big why. I joked about the fact that we helped there be less blood on the OR floor. Mm. Like I was being very graphic, but we were making a difference. And when I retired, that all went away. And so Jackie, my wife, says to me, Richard, you've got to go get a job. And because I was unfulfilled, frustrated, and ornery, honestly ornery. And who was I taking it out on? The person I love the most on the planet. Big on the outside, Chris, little on the inside. Mm. And it was because I didn't have a plan. What's next? And so I'm back to Mr. Maxwell, who told me, Richard, do something that makes a difference. Now, okay, maybe it's not hospice and palliative care anymore, but do something that makes a difference with people who want to make a difference at a time that it makes a difference. That is stepping into significance. And not to bore you with too much detail, but that's what I figured out how to do that 15 years ago. And I would encourage your listeners to be thinking it doesn't have to be the 80-hour weeks anymore, but you can do something that makes a difference.
Does it feel like work anymore, Richard, or does, are there days that it's still a grind, or?
You're meddling now because
I should have told you I was going to do that.
Yes. I know me, and I also knew human nature, and entropy is a thing. Okay, and I'm 72 years old. I've got excuses. It creaks, it moans, it hurts. Okay. Am I going to take an excuse or am I going to push through? And you've got people who are 62 who are having that very same challenge. It has nothing to do with the chronological number. Mm-hmm. It has to do with, am I making a difference? Is that why big enough to get me up even when I don't feel like getting up? Most days it is play. Most days it's play. Serious play. Making a difference, but it's fun. Does it give you energy or does it suck energy from you? And the things that I am able to do these days absolutely energize me. Did I answer your question?
You
there
did.
At all?
You did.
Okay.
So what are some truths about leadership, success, or life that no one warned you about, but you had to learn the hard way?
Yeah. Will Rogers said, good judgment comes from experience, and a lot of that comes from bad judgment.
Love Will Rogers.
He's so awesome, so direct, so real. I think some of the things that I didn't, maybe I didn't listen to, or that I didn't think I had learned well, I did learn from my own bad judgment. And so those self-inflicted lessons are the ones that really stuck. The ones that cost me and those around me, so family and team and business associates and customers. Yeah, sometimes some very serious, life-altering screw-ups that came right out of this little brain. And I think perspective on those things is what I had not been prepared for. Be careful, because I am a person who thinks I know more than I actually know. And I've continued to prove this decade after decade after decade. But over time, it's sinking in the fact that, you're not really as smart as you think you are. It is okay to have a team. There is wisdom in perspective. A way that I illustrate these days is, let's just do it. Hey, Chris, what is 2 plus 2?
4. Oh, no, I am an accountant, so.
Okay, good job. 2 and 2 is 4. And we can get locked into the fact that it's data. 2 plus 2 is 4. Let me change the question just a little bit. What is 4?
A number, an even number.
Yep.
It's divisible by 2.
6 minus 2.
Yeah, it's 4.
36 divided by 9.
So it's much more complex than kind of what meets the eye.
And in fact, there are an infinite number of answers to the what is 4 question.
Right.
Minus a million plus whatever the right number. There's an infinite number. And so it's a perspective thing. And this is what I missed much of the time. I thought 2 and 2 is 4. Mm-hmm. Data driven. Here's the answer. And in fact, what I've learned is, I'm not arguing with the facts, and I'm not arguing with principles, and I'm not arguing with bedrock capital T truth, but many times there's way more than one way to get a thing done. Mm. And I missed that for a long, long time. And I wonder what might have been different if I had been a little more open to what's 4.
That's good. That feels like the fruit of wisdom. One of the quotes that I've carried it forward into my new year and my new journal is that only wisdom comes through reflection upon, like, a life lived is whatever, but reflected life, like, in other words, reflecting back upon it, is where wisdom comes from. We could live day upon day upon day, but if you don't reflect back upon it, there's no wisdom to glean. But the more that you kind of glean, then the more wisdom there is. Does that feel true?
Yes. Here's the way I say that. People tell us experience is the best teacher. And I've proven that that's not correct. Okay. Evaluated experience is the best teacher. And so we must put aside time to sit and think. Yeah. What went right? What went wrong? The after action review. Y'all do this in healthcare all the time. You've got systems for it. We often don't apply it to our own personal life.
Yep, that's well said.
That gets a little close, doesn't it? Sometimes.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, we led the year off with our, we usually end the year with a one-word podcast. We started the year this year with the one-word podcast. And I shared a lot of tactics that I've just gleaned from amazing, wise people like you over the years that I've hardwired as part of my end of the year practice, including kind of theming the new year. Well, let me ask you this question, since you kind of talked about the what's next. But a lot of these CEOs that I know, they're approaching retirement. So what does finishing well really look like in your view? And maybe that well is the last 2 or 3 years. And I know some that are in like a 3, 4, maybe even 5-year window.
Do you find that people set and continue to work toward goals that they set?
It's a mixed bag. I mean,
it
certainly.
It all depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, it all depends. Do we talk more about it? Absolutely. Do people walk that walk? It's kind of a mixed bag, 50-50.
Yeah, but there's that bell curve distribution of that population as well. We all talk about goals, and some of us don't even like the word, and other people are so focused and driven for their goals. I guess my answer to what you asked is, I think you got to be sure that you're aiming for the right thing.
Mm.
Here's what I know. I climbed and climbed and climbed like crazy, successfully, only to find I'd had my ladder leaned against the wrong wall. Okay, it didn't matter. The things that I was being, and so I would encourage these folks to be successful at the right thing.
Mm.
Now, what is the right thing? I happen to be a person of faith who thinks that I was created for a purpose, created on purpose. There's a thing in the universe that God created for me to do, not you,
mm-hmm.
not these hundreds of people that are listening to us. No, Richard, you're my plan A. I don't know if he had a plan B. I think he did, but I would say if you can get clear on what your plan A is during your work career life, in your after work career life, in your personal life, in your grandparent life, get clear on what that calling is, what really defines success. And then my experience is I can't go at the same pace I used to go. The pace has changed.
Mm-hmm.
But I joke and say, but moving forward is a pace. Okay. Sometimes it's slower. That's okay. That's okay. But what matters is the intentionality. Am I going to lay down and stop? Or am I going to continue to pedal slowly? You know what happens to that bicycle when you stop pedaling and eventually you coast and soon, kunk.
You just fall over.
You can't fall over. And so forward is a pace. And I would, keep pedaling. Find the thing that energizes you now and that is making a difference in serving others, and go do that thing.
Yeah, there's two things you remind me of. That guy, Dr. Thayer, who was my mentor, he prided himself on rattling people's cages because he was really trying to get you to think. And we were a lot of hospice leaders in the class I was a part of. And he used to say that one of the diagnoses of someone who should be hospice appropriate, which means you got 6 months left to live, is you're no longer learning. And he'd do that, but he'd do that to kind of get us riled up and like, well, that's not what the regs say. But he was teaching us a great lesson. Like if you're no longer, as you were saying, moving forward, then you literally just got to fall over.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, when you said it, I'm going to push on it, and you tell me if I'm misinterpreting. You said, God's created for a purpose. Would it be more accurate to say purposes? Because there might be a core kernel there, right? Yeah. But the application of it morphs over if you keep wrestling with it. Like I feel this is probably the best niched as far as my purpose of what I'm doing now. But I always, each year, as I keep trying to do that reflective practice, I see it morphing. It's more true today than it was a year ago. And I hope it's going to be more true 2 years from now. And then, I don't plan on retiring. I hope I work forever. It just looks like a different version, and certainly is going to have to be a different speed. But I kind of see that purpose continuing the morphing. So I would say purposes. Would you push back on that characterization?
Absolutely not. Like, which of us is a one-trick pony? We're good at lots of things. Most of us are good at lots of things. Sometimes I think it's fear that keeps us from stepping over into that. Or it's what society labels us. Oh, you're the CEO of TCN. You can't go serve the boys club or the YWCA. You can't do. Who are you? And so the crabs in the basket keep pulling us back down. Although there are other things, purposes that we're good at. That's one thing that strikes me. And the second thing that strikes me is the method might change. And so Andy Stanley said, marry the mission, date the method.
I like that.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this thing, but technology changes. Mm-hmm. Like this right here. Who could have imagined 20 years ago?
Yep.
But here we are. Okay, so mission the same, method has changed. And so I think we can be flexible about the method. I've had healthcare people go very wiggy when I say something like that. I am not talking about bending the rules or inventing your own tech. No, I'm talking about following protocol, but learning and adapting and adjusting and finding a new way.
Love that you poked on. First, love this. This is brilliant. But I love where you just took it about healthcare people, because I think there's a shadow side to everything in life. This whole concept of evidence-based medicine, I think, has become a little bit of a limiter. But yes, you don't want people inventing stuff on the fly, starting a new IV on you or something along those lines. But to be in that continual learning mode, there may be new ways to do this even better. Yes. So it's not an either or. I think it's a bit of a both and. But I'm with you. Healthcare people get really tweaky when you say stuff like that, because there's only one way. Well, there wasn't one way back in the day. I mean, all these things we've inherited today in modern day medicine was because someone was in the learning mode that, why the hell do we keep killing? Why do these people keep dying? Well, we weren't washing our hands. And
yes,
we haven't discovered all there is to discover. That's what you were saying earlier, that, just
what is for.
Say again.
What is for?
Yeah. What is for?
There's lots of ways to get to 4. Some of them are legal, moral, and ethical. Okay, Those are the ones we want to stick with. Yeah, your point is exactly right, Chris.
That is part 1 of our conversation with Richard Mobley. Part 2 drops this Friday.